Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. But first, on behalf of the organizers of this campaign, and as one of the organizers of this campaign, we want to thank you all for being here and being on our panel. And then we'd also like to thank you audience members for coming out and supporting us. So let me first briefly introduce myself. My name is Rachel Anderson. I'm a senior broadcast journalism and Spanish student here, and I'm also the co-chair of events for this campaign. And now I'd like to ask my fellow panel members to introduce themselves. More information about the panel members is found in the program that you received today. So panel members, could you please introduce yourself and tell us why you're on this panel? Please free to include as much information or as little information as you feel comfortable with. And if you could, please also let us know your preferred pronouns. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Mykki, and the slightest clue why I'm on this panel. Is that enough?
Sure. And your pronouns?
You guys know me. I'm that crazy little person that runs all around this building. Yeah, I'm not going to go into when I transitioned. It was so long ago and stuff like that. It's just irrelevant today. So let's get on to the real new stuff.
Okay. Next.
I'm Hayden Tupelo. I'm a FTM, which means female to male transgender. Transitioned about 12 years ago. I do speaking engagements wherever I can to actually try to educate people. And I'm here because my wife is a staff member.
And Hayden, what are your preferred pronouns?
Male, he.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Susannah Sweeney-Gates. I am a graduate of the University of Mississippi School of Law from 2012, and I currently work as the project coordinator for the Center for Continuing Legal Education. I'm on this panel because one of my friends volunteered me. I ran the outlaw group, the LGBT group in the law school, and I was also the creator of the country's first LGBT CLE symposium while I was in law school. I am part of the LGBT community. Some people find this word offensive, but I consider myself queer. Probably pansexual is a better term for me. I don't care really about gender identity when I'm attracted to somebody or I'm dating somebody. So I guess that's why I'm here.
Hello. Many of you probably know me. My name is Dylan Lewis, and I'm a senior here in the journalism school. And I usually tell people I'm from Tupelo, but I won't say that because people from Tupelo do not consider me from Tupelo. I actually grew up in Mooreville, Mississippi, which is about 10 minutes outside of Tupelo, a very small town. And I guess I'm on this panel. I'm kind of like Mykki. I don't know why I'm on this panel.
Because we hang around here a lot,
right?
That's why.
Yes, and I'm also on the It Starts With Meek campaign committee, so.
Hi, I'm Danica. Many of you might know me as the singing girl on campus, or previously the singing guy on campus. And I transitioned actually in October of last year. So I've only been a girl for like 7 months, and I'm still learning. I was invited to do this panel probably because of the fact everyone knows me and the fact that even after I transitioned, I actually gained more friends. And now like everyone's giving me advice on makeup and hair, and I've tried to figure out exactly how to do eye makeup, which I had no good hand-eye coordination, pun intended. So I thought that I'd be able to share my story a little bit and kind of answer questions as well.
Well, great. Thank you all again for being here. So now I'm going to throw out some questions, and any panel member who wishes to answer can respond. So first, I'd just like to ask, what myth, stereotype, or misunderstanding about sexual orientation or gender expression do you want people to better understand?
Well, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual says that gender identity disorder is not a mental illness. But gender dysphoria is considered a mental illness because it involves distress. So if someone is not distressed about being a male to female or female to male transition, they do not have a mental disorder. So I found that out recently.
Would anyone else like to take a stab at this question, or we can move on?
No, apparently I'm crazy. So I fall in that crazy category. I was diagnosed with gender dysphoria many, many years ago. And And that was true, because I was greatly in distress, about to drink myself to death, and had to do something about that. But probably as far as myths go, well, I'm not going to rape you in the bathroom, I can tell you that. That's probably the worst one I've heard.
Would anyone else like to address a stereotype? Because I ask that because our campaign is about rejecting stereotypes. So if you feel so comfortable, if one of you could maybe talk about how you have been stereotyped in the past and how did you respond to that stereotype?
Well, someone tried to tell me that I had a mental illness, and I asked them if they were a psychologist, and they didn't answer. So.
I like that response.
Also, the other thing a lot of people don't understand is when they try to insult someone, they actually do care about that person, because if they didn't have any emotional attachment, they wouldn't say anything. So when people say, oh, I don't care about this person, but you just said you cared because you actually brought them up. So I'm a realist.
Well, I will say this, as far as stereotyping goes, I guess, I don't mind at all if someone says I'm a character. Mm-hmm. I've been here long enough, and gosh, it's kind of an honor to be an Oxford character. There have been so many wonderful ones. As long as I'm a character of good character, and that I'm being singled out for my uniqueness. Uniqueness is a virtue, but being gay or transgender is not unique anymore. It never has been. Coming out has been, but it's never been unique. It is what it has always been, and that is another example of the eclectic beauty of nature. And understanding that is at the heart of what it means to be a human being. So don't put people in boxes. That is a huge trouble. And I have a problem with that amalgamation of letters, LBGT, LMNOQ. I cannot pronounce that word. I cannot pronounce that word, so I just say people. And I would like to make the need to identify ourselves by a group of letters that don't even form an appropriate acronym. I would like to make that obsolete, and so we don't put anyone in a box, and that we are all just people.
And that fits perfectly also into another message with our campaign that we're trying to spread, that there's not just one role that defines someone, or not just one identifier that defines one individual. So, like I'm saying, this campaign is also about the fact that all of us have many roles in our lives other than our sexual orientation or gender. So what are some things about your life that you might want to share that besides maybe this one role that people might identify you with? Hayden, Susannah, maybe you'd like to add something?
I just see my sexual identity as just another part of me. Like, I have brown hair, I walk with a cane, I'm a girl. I mean, it's not a thing. It was a big thing when I was young and I was coming out because I was finally identifying with the community and everything. But now as I've gotten older, it's kind of like what you said. We're just people, and it'd be nice that we don't have to stand up and say, we don't have to have programs like this anymore.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We can I'm just with who I'm with, and I like who I like, and it's really not a big deal.
I mean, it is, you have to understand, and I'm sure many of us have done panels like this before, that the fact that we have to stand up here and explain to an audience why we are different. I'd love to someday that there'd be absolutely no need for that. No need at all.
I think the biggest thing is people don't understand it's a spectrum, because if you think about the first person who could be considered transgender would have been a tomboy, because they had the word boy in their name, mm-hmm. and no one said anything about them. Mm-hmm. They were just very masculine women. And so the fact that someone is on a spectrum went from being a masculine man or a effeminate man to being a feminine woman is just still part of the spectrum.
Many cultures throughout history, especially Native American cultures, transgender and gay people had a valued place in their culture. And discovering that, I was researching my mom's Blackfoot heritage one time, and I came across the story of the Two-Spirit, a person born with both a male and a female spirit. And when I saw that was the one thing that finally gave me the courage to say, I can do this. You know, I'm going to start living an authentic life. If people don't like it, I don't care. I'm valued. I really have a value to society.
I think we all finally hit that point to where we just can't live our lives for other people anymore. We have to live our lives for us. And unfortunately, a lot of us lose a lot of people along the way, but a lot of us gain people along the way. So it's definitely a unique journey.
It's interesting when you go from 350 friends on Facebook to 3,080 friends on Facebook in less than a year, and you don't know half of them, 90% of them.
And I would also like to add, on the spectrum thing, I have noticed a lot of times within the community, if you don't fit a certain box, you're not considered true transgender. And that irritates me because there is a large spectrum of transgender people out there. Some people never take hormones. So they're not considered true transgender because they don't take hormones. Some trans men they remain feminine. They still dress in women's clothes. They're not considered true transgender. You know, and we're all, even though you say we're not unique, we are unique. Each of our journeys are unique. Even, you know, my wife, her journey is unique in her perspective. So it is a large, very large spectrum.
And if you could share, or if you could tell people about your life, maybe something that is not related to your gender expression or your sexual orientation, is that something that is there anything that you would like to share with the public so they don't maybe identify you in that one box? Or do you feel that you'd like to share more about yourself or anything like that?
Well, when I first came to campus, I come from Washington State, and then I moved down here and then went to college for 2 years down here. And so then I moved up here for the 4-year part, and in April of 2015, I just started to walk around campus singing, just out of the blue, just while exercising and everything. And the big thing is like, I just did it for me. But then after 2 weeks, a friend of mine walked up to me and goes, "You're the singing guy." I'm like, who's the singing guy? Like, I had no clue people were recording me or anything. And I think that by doing that and kind of just showing that even though I'm like outside the mold on like social norms of like trying to keep to yourself, keep to your cliques or anything like that, most people don't know I'm almost 32. Like, I look like I'm 26 and I think I'm aging backwards. But no, I just posted a picture up on Facebook and my 10-year-old picture was older than me. So, but the idea is like, I broke the mold of people thinking that you have to fit inside of you can't go do this, you can't go do that. And just said, be yourself and be who you are, and don't let anyone come up to you and tell you that you can't be an astronaut, you can't be the president, you can't do this because you aren't good enough. And so by me singing, I think that being able to be get that support from the people and getting that support from having people tell me that I'm really good at singing stuff, when I actually did transition, it actually helped, because I don't think beforehand if I would have done it, it would have actually been as supportive or people have understood, because personality is what people care about. They don't care what you look like. They don't care what you do. If you have a great personality, you're funny, you're happy, you make other people happy, I don't think anyone cares if you're a newt.
I was an actor in New York for 7 years. I started at the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute, the Actors Studio. I was taught by legends. I knew legends. And then the rest of my first 22 years of professional life, I was a television anchorman, there we go, and reporter, and news director. I'm speaking to you in my anchorman voice, my natural voice, which I don't get to use very often because it freaks people out. One thing that I have found it good for, one of the biggest social changes I have noticed living as a woman, men constantly interrupting me. Men turning away while I'm in mid-sentence and talking to someone else, or just walking away. So then I just go into my anchorman voice and go, hey, dude, I'm talking to you. All right, bam, I'm done. Now you can walk away. But yeah, and I was a senior producer and a public relations broadcast news coordinator, and then I had to flush all that down the toilet to save my life and live a realistic life in 2001. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I am grateful to all powerful that the university pays me to do anything at all around here. Because quite frankly, running that camera, you could get a trained ferret with a GoPro strapped to its head to do that job. But by the grace of God, Dr. Samir Husney, Dean Norton, Dean Mitchell, they've given me the opportunity to write for newspapers, write for magazines, to do my own documentaries, to practice my craft, continue to practice my craft, and have some professional self-respect with that. And what I had to sacrifice professionally, it does haunt me. It haunts me more as I get older. But thanks to those people and to the students, I absolutely love my life. I love my job. Despite what I sacrificed, I am the happiest I have ever been in my entire life. And then I consider those sacrifices nothing compared to the personal sacrifices that people have made. I've known way too many people who've lost their families, lost their lives because nature made them different. So I'm grateful that that did not happen to me. That was not something that I had to give up. My parents were traditional, conservative Southerners, and I have an older sister who's a lesbian, a younger brother who's married to an African American, and they have a family. And then there was me, and it was just been such a beautiful thing to see how powerful love actually is. Because the one thing my parents never lost and always had was their love for their kids, no matter what. And I'm just so grateful for that. And I'm so grateful for the eclectic family that I have. And I saw that love as my parents dealt with things they weren't used to dealing with, but they loved their kids, and it became natural and family to them. My God, I'm about to tear up. I didn't mean to do that.
No,
sorry.
Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Well, that's just the hormones. I learned that a while ago.
We're so grateful to have you here. But you just kind of segued right into my next question that I was about to ask. So
I do that very well,
yes.
don't I? Yeah, we should do a talk show together, and I'll sit next to you and set you up.
Yes, perfect. You can read my mind. So maybe for anyone else, would like to share some of the joys or challenges that you have faced in your life because of your sexual orientation or gender identity?
Funny enough, no one has come to my face and told me anything about me being transgender, but they've talked behind my back.
Do they? Yeah.
And it's like, and I think it's, there's a meme that I saw on, or like one of those demotivational posters that I saw online, and it said, "Eat the, 'cause talking things in person is dangerous." I changed things because I don't like swearing a lot, especially on camera.
Thank you.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I say this so often that no one has ever disrespected me on campus to my face. And I think that's mainly because they fear me. They're afraid they might walk into a classroom one day and I'll be their instructor. But, and I took pride in that. But then when I talked to students, their experience was a 360 of what I was going through. So I hope that's changing.
Well, and that's the big thing is like when people know your personality and they talk to you and they come up to you, like I had some guys last night come up and have a picture with me. I'm like, okay, you know, it's like I have no problem with taking pictures with people. It's when people come up, is it awkward if I ask you to take a picture with me? I'm like, it is now.
I think being part of the LGBTQ plus community teaches you to be a lot more tolerant of other people, because you never know anytime you come out if you're going to walk out the door and somebody's going to be waiting outside to put a bat into your head, or if you're going, as you said, you're going to become, I'm no longer Sue the attorney, I'm Sue the gay person. Or I'm Sue, the wife of a transgendered person. I no longer am myself. I'm a definition that somebody else has. So I think it makes you a lot more open and a lot more tolerant of other people's opinions and ideas, even when they clash with yours. I mean, I understand that a lot of people in this country don't like me because of who I am, but that's their opinion, and I'm okay with that. I have my own opinions as well. It just teaches you tolerance.
I think the biggest thing that is the problem with a lot of people in the country not liking transgender is based on religion, where they interpret the Bible the way they want to define this is good, this is bad. But I actually went on Facebook to a bunch of friends of mine and said, hey, who's a religious person and can I talk to you about this? Because I wanted to know what their opinion is, because I don't know much about the Bible. Last thing I read in the Bible was Revelations. So the big thing is, and I found out that out of all the people I talked to, it came down to 3 things. 1, God loves everyone. 2, God's the only one that can judge you. And 3, love thy neighbor. So it's like at that point, if people are not following that, they're looking for reasons to find a way to put someone out into a group that they don't like. Now, I have nothing against people who read the Bible and stuff. Who am I to judge someone on a book that gives them advice on how to live their life? Like, don't lie. Great. You know, these are things that are actual really good things. And when people say I have a mental illness because I'm transgender, I say that's as ridiculous as someone who is religious having a mental illness. Because if I ask the same questions that someone asks me about how I feel, how I think, it would sound like I'm a schizophrenic if I believed in someone who lived in the clouds and that did things for me and I felt them. And that's why I say, believe in what you want to believe. If it's not hurting anyone, it's not hurting anyone. And as it was said earlier, I'm not a pervert going into the women's bathroom to go spy on people, because people say that, you know, these things could happen. Well, let's talk about something that did happen, the Crusades. You know, if we want to go into how negative something is, and that's where it really gets onto the point where you have to understand things have happened in the past, things may happen in the future, but until it happens, until, like, there's already laws in place for voyeurism, there's already laws in place for sexual harassment. It doesn't define one group of people. It defines everyone. And I believe, based on the Constitution, I have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, like everyone else does.
I was on a panel last night, and a woman from the audience asked me why I moved from New York to Mississippi. And I told her it was my criminal past, that I dressed like a woman because I'm in the witness protection program. So I obviously don't give a damn what people think about me.
Would any of our other panelists like to include maybe a challenge or a joy?
When I was thinking about, excuse me, let me get some water. Toffee for some reason. So when I decided to go to college, I had dreamed of going, obviously, outside of Mississippi because I grew up here my entire life, right down the road. And so I was scared that coming to the University of Mississippi that I would experience some of the same things that I had experienced growing up. And now that I'm leaving Mississippi after graduation, I can say that being at the University of Mississippi was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I remember when I was in high school, I actually was kicked out of my house. And there were friends, obviously back then, not now, that always made fun of me. And I always dreamed of a place that I could go where people would see beyond that sexuality of mine and see that there was more to me. You know, there was this bright and, you know, ready to go person. I love leading, I love volunteering, I love doing all these things, and I dreamed of a place that I could go and people could see that. And I found that here. You know, a famous quote from, not even a quote, it's a song lyric from one of my favorite Fantasia. She says, sometimes you have to lose to win again. And I lost almost everything that I had. You know, my parents, my siblings, and I lost all of that at the time. But when I came here, I won it all. I won family, I won love, I won opportunities. And I think that when I think back of my experience in Mississippi and growing up, the first thing that's going to come to mind is not all the bad things that happened, but all the good that happened here at the university. And I know that there's still so much that we have to do and that we are trying to do, but when I came here, I found everything that I ever wanted, and I found that place that I always dreamed of.
Thank you for sharing that, Dylan. And you need to join our talk show because you just answered my next question.
That was a dream of mine.
Oh, good. We're going to set it up. That'll be next campaign. We'll have it on the schedule. But my next question I'd like to address was, have you ever been bullied, harassed, or treated poorly because of your sexual orientation? Of course, this is if you're willing to share. You could tell us what happened and how did you respond?
I was bullied more before I transitioned than after I transitioned. I grew up getting beat up, punched, kicked. I got to the point where I had my head through a door talking to my next door neighbor's mom, who was a teacher's assistant for a class, and 2 kids kicked the door shut on my head. So I grew up in an environment where, nowadays, where people would be like, oh, you're being bullied, you know, Facebook, all of that stuff. Well, I didn't have Facebook when I was a kid, or a phone, thank God. But the idea was like when I got to high school and then beyond, I just determined in myself that I am who I am. I don't care what anyone thinks anymore if it's going to be negative, because there's no reason anyone should ever make you feel like you're not wanted, that you're not a person, that you're not going to have friends, that you're not going to be anything in life, because the easiest way to make someone not have power is if they insult you, you go, how'd that make you feel? Did you gain anything from it? Do you have any social standing now? Like, make them think about their own feelings, they'll get confused. So the idea is like trying to give purpose to something. If you're insulting someone and there's no purpose behind it, like if there's no constructive criticism, like, hey, you did bad in this, but maybe you can do better this way, then there's no way that they can have power if you just don't give it to them.
Yeah, the last thing you ever want to do is get angry, because that gives them the power. If you don't get angry, they lose that power. I used to walk a great deal, and many times it'd be downtown early on, and you know, a truckload of guys come by. One of them would yell something stupid, and I knew they had to stop at a stop sign, so I generally meet them at the stop sign and walk up to the truck. This is just me. I don't recommend this. Do not. That's my disclaimer. Do not do what Mickey says. But I'd walk up to the truck and say, how you guys doing? How's it going today? And, you know, it'd be a truckload of guys. The rest of them are good. There's that one jerk. And even his buddies don't like him, you know? So, and they generally wouldn't say anything other than fine, nice. And you know when they drove away, they're just looking at their friend, and God knows what, you know, shut up, you know. Letting them have it. Let them get on their friend about it. But, yeah, that's the last thing in the world you ever want to do when someone yells at you or something like that, is to get upset. Just kind of smile and laugh at them, and then they don't know what to do.
I also think that people don't want to pick a fight with me because I'm 6'5" in heels.
Well, you know, also that they might think that you know, I'm crazy. You know, I'm a voodoo queen. You know, with all this bling on. You never know what I might do.
Well,
I've never been like bullied like as we said earlier, to my face. It's always been a lot of behind my back type stuff. And obviously, word gets around and we hear those things. So I can't speak, obviously, for the entire community. But I have been bullied verbally, not physically at all, ever. Not that people should be scared of me. I'm like a toothpick. But I guess I'm sassy. I guess that's scary. I don't know. But I've never, I was bullied here, you know, verbally from people. Just walking down the sidewalk and hearing things. When out on the square, I had someone, and I absolutely hate this word, but I had someone call me a fag, and I turned around and I kicked him in the shin. I didn't know
Dylan, you're not a cigarette.
Yeah,
you have to remember that.
But I had someone tell me that. I got told that I couldn't help with a specific organization on campus because I needed to be more straight. I was asked for what definition that meant, or what that meant. So, I mean, I've had those things said to me, but again, I can't speak for the entire community. So I'm sure there are people out there that have been physically and also verbally bullied, but some who may not have. So.
So other than kicking someone in the shins,
Oh, great. I've never done that before.
how should someone respond to heterosexual friends, family, or coworkers, or even strangers who feel negatively about a person who identifies as LGBT?
I think we preach this message of loving everyone, and like, I know for me, it's hard for me to dislike someone. You know, like, I mean, yes, I have strong opinions about people, but deep down inside, like, I still genuinely care for that person. And I think that for me, I have to look at my parents and my family, and I just love them. You know, no matter what they have done to me, it sucks, but I love them. And I love my friends who, you know, have said things about me behind my back. I think that if we want love, we have to give it too. And I love people with everything that I have, and you know, it breaks my heart because I know of friends who, you know, have said things about me, but they are hiding a part of them that, because they're scared. You know, they felt the same way that we felt, and that's sad. Like it makes me, it really upsets me. So through my life and through my actions, I love people, and I show them what it can be like. You know, you don't have to hide behind this, you know, living a double life, I guess you could say. So preach love. If you want love, then you have to give it, and that's what I do.
Susannah, Hayden, do you have anything to add about maybe response to negativity?
I would say to open a dialogue. When I come out to anyone, like a few years ago when I started coming out to everybody at work, I'm like, if you have questions, ask. You know, don't come up with your own ideas in your head. Come and ask me. I'm very open. Open a dialogue. Talk to people. Allow them to ask questions. No matter how red, you know, you may turn from the question, allow them to ask questions.
I'd see, like, right after I transitioned, a ton of people came out and asked me for interviews and everything, wanting to know more about me. Like, I actually had one 2 Fridays ago, and the first question after my name was, so what's it like now that you've had gender reassignment surgery? I'm like, I haven't. Let's start over. Because in the thing, and I was going to say, that's another myth. It's like, you have gender reassignment surgery if you've transitioned, and no, it's like $50,000. So if anyone wants to give me $50,000, I'll be happy to go and take care of that. But the other thing is, like, a lot of people don't understand that I have to put, and I think you can understand this, I have to put my life on the line every day taking hormones, because hormones can cause cancer and cancer causes death. I actually had to sign a paper that said, this medication can cause blood clots, which can lead to A, death, B, cerebral embolism. I'm like, you could have stopped at death. I think I got the picture.
Yeah, when I became eligible for gender reassignment surgery, and my psychiatrist had asked me, she said, but I have one question, you know, before I approve you for this. Are you happy? And I said, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. And she said, that's what doctors like to hear. Anytime they can cure someone without surgery, it's wonderful. And that meant a lot to me. And one, because of the cost, and two, because of the dangers of the drugs, and I was aging. And I thought, I'm so incredibly happy right now the way I am. Continuing to take these drugs and dying is going to do me no good. And so that's where I stopped. And I went off the hormones. And I, you know, if there was that magic pill or something like that, yeah, I'd do it. But you know, the risks and things, I weigh the fact that no. I love who I am now, and I do not want to risk dying at this point unnecessarily because of that. Again, you know, I said I've been lucky. I haven't lost family and friends, and you know, friends that I care about, and asking the questions. Early on, probably about 2003, I was walking across campus one day. And this beautiful woman comes up to me. Her name was Robin Street, and she said, "What's up with you?" She said, "I'm a reporter, I have to ask." So yes, that's the most important thing you can do. If you have questions, ask. We're happy to explain.
I think we'd rather you know the truth than assume the truth, because the truth in the media can give a very skewed version of what is actually the truth, and we can tell you the truth from experience.
So one thing I've been hearing out of you guys is that you've talked about, you know, developing a strong idea of who you are, maybe developing self-love, or just having a sense of not caring about what other people think of you. How did you guys develop this, or have that kind of strong sense of strength, despite maybe the adversity or negativity that you've dealt with?
I think it's reaching a point of no end, isn't it?
It's basically where you get to the point where, like, when I grew up, I started thinking I was transgender when I was 11. So 20 years later, I've now actually transitioned. I grew up in an environment where I was hiding that, plus getting beat up for being just shy, or people could just pick on me and know that I wouldn't fight back, and went through all of that. I think I got the angriest one time when someone said that I had been a-hole for this entire relationship I was in, and it was the most ridiculous statement ever, because I had done so much to give them, like, take them places, make them food, go out and do all this stuff with them, and they had the nerve to say this to me. I got to the point where I was so stressed that I was shaking while driving, which you never want to do. And I got in my brain, I was like, no, what? I never want to get that angry again. I never want to feel this point where I'm literally cannot control my emotions. So I worked so hard to be able to use willpower to, like, fight this entire thing. And then once I came to a point in my life where I was like, I'm gonna gain the best thing that ever happened to me, and that's ambivalence, where you just don't care one way or another what someone says. You can either care or you cannot care, and you stay in the middle, and you're like, oh, this person called me stupid. Well, am I stupid? No. Okay, well, I guess they're just unintelligent. I will use a better term for it. a more intelligent term than a kindergarten insult. But it came to the point where I decided that I never wanted anyone else to feel how I felt growing up. Because when I was growing up, I was put in dark places where I hit rock bottom multiple times. My parents kicked me out of the house. In 2006, I was literally homeless for about 3 months. I moved down to Florida to stay with a friend of mine. Then my parents decided that they were going to be nice to me again and sent me to school. And then now I don't talk to either of my parents. My dad thinks that God's punishing him for all the bad things he did when I was a kid. And my mom doesn't like my wife. So my wife is my support structure in any sense of the word. And I was so afraid wanting to come out that on my birthday last year, I decided I'm gonna tell everyone, because I want people to know that I've gotten to the point in my life where I just want to be who I want to be. I lost one friend that day on Facebook when I posted that. One friend. I don't even know who it was. But out of the woodwork, all these people started coming up and saying, I support you. You be who you want to be. You do this. And I even had one friend, one of my oldest friends who used to pick on me when I was a kid, goes, I am so sorry for all the things I ever did to make you cry, to make you upset. I had no idea what you were going through. And no one did. I had that well of a facade. Even coming here, no one knew it. Like even some of my friends here are like, what? What happened? Like, how long has this been going on? 20 years. So that's the big thing, is like when I can put on such a face that no one knows, it means I've gained some strength in becoming who I want to be, because I've endured enough to know that I don't want to endure this anymore, and I'm gonna be who I want to be.
I also think coming from, well, I'm 39 and I came out at 16 in a little tiny town in upstate New York. And I was a weird kid. I was a little gother and I was just weird and no one liked me. I was the misfit. And coming out at that age in a town about the size of Pontotoc, Mississippi, and probably even more backwards, thinking in 1993 than they are now, you have to be strong because you're your own community. The only other gay person I knew was my best friend, and we sat across the kitchen table at my grandparents' house, and he's like, I think I'm gay. I said, yeah, me too, right on. And we continued our rummy game, and that was it. That was the big coming out story, and I mean, he's still my best friend today after almost forever. But he and I and Hayden, who also came out, you know, early and in the 80s and the 90s, we had to be strong because we didn't have anybody to help us be strong. We were our own community. When I got to Mississippi when I was 19, I got with my first girlfriend and we were going to get married because we were in love. And I went to Books A Million to find a book on gay marriage, and there was one. And it was all the way at the bottom shelf in the back where the cobwebs were, and there were no gay people on TV, and if they were a joke. And you still had to be strong. The gay clubs were out in the middle of nowhere, and you were always wondering if you were going to get firebombed that night. So you had to be strong for yourself because there's nobody else to be strong for you. It's not the community that young people have coming out today, which is wonderful, and I'm so thankful that you guys have that.
Yeah. Piggybacking off of that, like, obviously, I think I'm the youngest one up here, and I've had that community. I mean, obviously, I know deep down that I am very strong, and friends remind me of that. Sometimes I forget that, and I've really relied a lot on other people to build me up when I'm at my weakest point. And I feel like every conversation I have, I talk about Ole Miss because it really is such an important part of my life. And I always thought being from Mississippi and coming here that everyone else was like all the other people from Mississippi, closed-minded and didn't like people like me, and I was so wrong. Obviously, those people exist here, but I am surrounded by so many people who love me and again look beyond that sexuality. It's just you're Dylan, and that's something that it's good that you have people like that. So you really have to find those people that love you rather than what you are. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of confusing. I don't know.
Well, thank you guys. My last question I have for you is multifaceted, so feel free to address any part of this.
Doesn't have any math in it, does it?
No, don't worry,
Okay,
don't worry.
because they promised me there would be no math questions.
I gave up after imaginary numbers.
Okay.
It's a journalism campaign, so we're sticking to that. So how would you describe the environment for the LGBT community here in Oxford? What improvements could be made, if any, and what do you think LGBT students and allies can do here in Oxford to make a difference?
So I've been doing, this is crazy because I'm in a class right now where we have to put together, excuse me, we have to put together our own campaign, and mine is focusing on mental health for the LGBTQ plus community, and also wrote a memoir this semester. And so I've been calling around to other institutions and in the country and figuring out what they have on campus. And I'm shocked to know that a lot of these universities, they have specific centers for the LGBTQ plus community. And while we have the Center for Inclusion here, it's great, but these people have specific centers. And I think that As far as the climax here on campus and in Oxford, according to a survey that I did, the majority of people think on a scale of 1 to 5 that we're at a 2 as far as acceptance. And I know I hear a lot of times, and I've said this multiple times too, that Oxford's in its own little bubble. When you think about Mississippi, you don't really think about Oxford being the same as everyone else, but it is in a way. Those people still exist here, and I don't think you're ever going to get rid of, people saying mean things or making you feel like you're, not appreciated. That's still going to exist, but there are ways. I think that we have to realize that while having these centers and having these resources on campus are great, but sometimes we need more than that. And I don't know specifically what that is. Maybe in years to come we'll figure that out. But I think that we have to see beyond centers and those resources. We need more sometimes. Some students, like myself, they can't even put themselves through college. Like they were kicked out of their home and they can't fill out the FAFSA because their parents don't give them information. So how do they go to college? They can't even get access to higher education because of who they are. And so we have to realize that there are more than just these minute things that we talk about.
I think it all comes back down to we're all human, we're all people, and if someone is being nice to you and someone is being friendly and wants to say hi and talk to you, and you know that they're LGBT and stuff, there's no reason not to talk to someone, because you learn more about people by talking to them than you would just saying, oh, I'm just going to ignore that person for now and then, talk with my friends, because I've been all over the world. I've been to Europe and I've been to Japan, and I've talked to people in different countries, and I find out so much that everyone is different in their own ways, different in their own cultures, but everyone's still the same. Everyone still has the same human traits, the same compassion that they can have in their mind. They can have the same happiness as everyone else. And it all just comes down to, we don't need centers for teaching this. We need people to just know that acceptance is the thing. Accepting for someone for who they are, not for what you want them to be, is the greatest thing, because at that point, when you can finally accept that people are going to be different and people are going to be their own people and they're going to live the way they want, you'll find that life becomes easier, because then you don't have to worry about, oh, I should not like this person because they're different, or they do this or they do this. If they're not hurting anyone, they're just trying to be friendly, there's no reason not to be nice to them.
I would
Thank
say
you. That was improv.
continue to do things like this. Getting panels together, allowing, I actually speak at a couple of classes for the sociology department, allowing us to come in and have conversations and allow students to come and talk and ask questions if they need to. So I would say to continue educating people.
And I think that that's important, educating people, but I've been here for 4 years, and I've seen, my first year here, my first semester here, we had the Laramie Project incident. I was terrified as a gay male. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to walk around campus and, this could happen to me, or someone could say these mean things that they said. And and now I look out into the room, and thank you guys for being here, but I want to, we can continue doing these education things, but until this room is full, people have to want to hear these things. People have to want to see, to know what it's like to be changed, and see these different people. But this room's not full, and until it's full, I don't think personally that it will change, because people are scared of change. People do not want to talk about change because it scares them. It's fear.
Some think ignorance is bliss. It's not bliss.
Well, with that, Hayden, I know you just posed that asking questions is always a good thing. So I know we only have a few minutes left here, but if anybody in the audience has a question they'd like to address, this would be now we'll take them. Yes.
Going off what you said, my freshman year I was on crew for the Laramie Project, and that was my first experience with the community, so it was kind of harrowing. For y'all who don't know, the Laramie Project was a show that was put on campus a couple of years ago that was about the death of Matthew Shepard from a hate crime, and during the show there were several
I think that it goes back to what I said, people have to want it. You have to, these people that are in here today, some of you may be getting extra credit, and while that's great, but I think deep down inside, you want to be here. You want to know what we have all experienced, and if you were in the panel earlier, what those people experienced too. And I don't have an answer, honestly. You can't make someone do something. They have to want to know what other people go through. They have to want to know and understand difference. You can't force that on. I think especially in our generation, people are sick of it. People feel like it's being thrown on them and that it's being forced and just shoved down their throat. And so you have to be gentle with it, and you have to, again, people have to want to know and understand difference.
You can't make people love you. You can only make them hate you.
That's true.
That you can successfully do. And forcing them, I know the audience, the entire audience from that production had to go to sensitivity training, whether they were guilty or not. And so there were a lot of innocent people punished. But we won't get into how that was handled.
I think actually the way to get to those people is word of mouth. Like when you tell someone that this is the way it is, and this is who someone is, and this is how things are, and that these things are negative and they shouldn't be said, then that person goes to someone else, and then they tell their friends, and then they tell their friends, and they tell their friends, and it finally gets back to those people who are saying all these slurs, and then their friends will probably come out and be like, hey, no, you shouldn't be doing this. Like someone said stuff about me on Facebook, and I found out after a 90-post reply to that person, which I wasn't even a part of, that people were defending me because of the fact that I've gotten to know them, they've gotten to know me, and they're saying, you know what, the best way to show this is by them coming out and saying, hey, I know this person, they're not what you're telling me they are, and you should not believe this because they're like this. And then they explain the reasons why I'm such a good person so that they can understand. Because I don't have to go to that person. It all comes down to when you have friends that come and help you, you have that support network, they're the ones that can help you as well if you don't feel that you can get across to that person.
All right. Does anyone else in the audience have a question? All right, well, with that, let's give these panelists a round of applause. They've done a great job tonight.